Hello, resilient fourth grade readers. I hope that you all are doing well. Thank you for viewing this instructional video today. Our itinerary for today's lesson will be vocabulary, our objective, know, show, and how, a cool video that you're going to have to pull up on your own, essential question, instruction, I do, which will consist of text reading and annotation, guided practice, we do, text-dependent questions, and independent practice, you do. Please pause the video and grab a pencil and piece of paper. Thanks for joining me again. Vocabulary focus, prefixes. A prefix is an affix which is placed before the stem or root of a word. Adding it to the beginning of one word changes it to another word. For example, when the prefix un is added to the word happy, it creates the word unhappy, which means not happy. Let's do a quick prefix review. Re means again, un means not, dis means not, bi means two, tri means three, anti, against, hyper, active, not or no, trans, move, d, down or away from, ill, not or opposite, geo, earth, bio, life, x, out of or away from, multi means many or more than one. Can you think of some words that have prefixes? I'm sure you can. Our reading standard for today is RI 4.2. I can determine the main idea of the text and explain how it is supported by key details. Summarize the text. There are three parts to this standard. The first part is determining the main idea. The second, explain how it's supported by key details. And the third, summarize the text. Let's start with our verbs, determine, explain, and summarize. To determine something means to decide or figure out. To explain means to make something clear by describing it in detail. To summarize means to give a brief statement of main point of something, 2 to 3 sentences. Now let's discuss our nouns, which are underlined, main idea, and key details. The main idea is the most important thought about a topic. It's usually one sentence. Key details. Key details provide important pieces that support the main idea. For example, if my topic is ice cream, my main idea could be different types of ice cream. And my key details would be chocolate ice cream, vanilla, and strawberry. And I would describe those different types of ice cream. What do we need to know? We need to know main idea, key details, and summarize. How are we going to show that we understand? We're going to be able to determine the main idea, explain how it is supported, and summarize the text. Now let's discuss what, why, and how. Today, we will be reading about the evolution of hairstyles. If something evolves or the evolution of something, that means it changes. So the change of hairstyles. We will practice how to determine the main idea and key details of a text. We will then summarize the text. Our purpose is to be able to read with understanding, determining the main idea, key details, and summarizing a text. How will we do this? We will read an informational text. You will watch a short video, engage in discourse, and answer a few text-dependent questions for practice. I'm unable to pull this video up, so I would like for you to pause and go to this website, On summary with vocabulary, put this address in, or just put vocabulary, summary. The video is about 4 minutes long. Take notes as the video plays, and then let's come back. All right. What did you learn from watching the video? The first thing you should have learned was that a summary should be simple and include relevant facts, things that are important. It includes the main idea and key details. You should answer the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why when you're writing a summary. Learning how to summarize helps you better understand and remember the information that you've read in a text. Here's our essential question for today. What strategies do good readers use to help them understand informational text? Well, the first strategy would be to determine the main idea. And main ideas are usually found in the beginning or the end of a passage or paragraph. However, that doesn't work all the time. Sometimes you have to infer. That means using what you know and what you've read. Good readers also are able to summarize the text. If you're able to read something and put it in your own words, that means that you've understood what you read. So the strategy there would be using the 5 W's: who, what, when, where, and why when summarizing. The main idea is like the cone. It's the main thing that holds details in place. The details are like scoops of ice cream. They support the main idea. How to find main idea of a passage. First, identify the topic. That's that very broad subject. Summarize the passage in your own words. That means using what you've read and putting it in your own words. Check the first and last sentences for the main idea. Look for repetition of ideas. Things that you see over and over will help you identify the main idea. Here are our anchor charts. Remember, when we summarize, we tell in our own words what happened in the story or text. Here are some basic signal words that I use when I summarize. Who is the subject? What, the action? Where, the location? When, the time? Why, the reason? And how, the process. If I'm able to answer these things, I have written a summary. Have a quick turn and talk with someone at home. Pause the video. Answering these 2 questions. What is main idea and key details? What does it mean to summarize? The main idea is what the paragraph or passage is mostly about. To summarize means to give a brief statement of the main points of something, excluding irrelevant information. That means not including, that EX means not. Irrelevant, the IR means not. So relevant means important. So you do not include irrelevant or unimportant information. Summary includes main idea, only important ideas, use keywords and your words. In nonfiction text, we identify the main idea and key details to get a clear understanding of what we have read. Let's make a real-world connection. Look at the photo at the bottom. When you're on a job interview, why is knowing how to summarize vital? Vital means important. Let me explain. When going on a job interview, employers see several people that they may consider to hire for the position. When you go on an interview, you're on a very short time frame. So you have a short amount of time to explain why they should hire you. You can't go on and on and on about everything that you've done. It has to be concise. So here's our real world connection. We summarize all of the time, and we summarize when we read. So learning how to summarize will help us in socially when we go out into the world and when we're studying at home when we read our text. Good readers summarize as they read. They pause to sum up the important ideas or events. This helps them remember the information. As you read a story, note the main events, the most important parts that happen in that story. After you read, ask yourself what the main events were and in what order they occurred, because you have to stay in the correct sequence when retelling important parts of a story. Summarizing informational text. Summarizing a text by briefly restating the main idea and key details will deepen your understanding of the information you read. Writers of informational text organize their information around main ideas and key details about a topic. To summarize a text, briefly restate the main idea and key details about the topic. Only include details that are important, details that answer questions about the main idea. Put your information in an order that makes sense, and be sure to use your own words. Let's go over our vocabulary. Fashion, style, spirit, statement, invention, appeared, towered, ornament, bob, complex, hairstyles, unusual, replaced, extreme, fancy, rebellion, historical, Victorian, modern, evolution, trends, impact, expression, and independent. I've highlighted 3 words. Do you know why? That is correct. I highlighted those words because those words all have prefixes. The prefix un means not. So when it's added to the root, that means not usual. The prefix re means again. So to replace something means to place it again. And the prefix n means not. So when I put it in front of the root, dependent, that means not dependent. Now I noticed that the word rebellion has the RE in it. However, that is not a prefix. That is part of that word. So just because you see RE or IN or EX, as in these words, invention and expression and rebellion, does not necessarily mean that it is a prefix. You have to be able to take their prefix away and still have a word that stands alone. The title of our text is Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. Have you heard a phrase similar to this before? I'm sure you have. What that means is sometimes things are one way one day and the next they change. Answering the questions who, when, what, where, and why will help you summarize. Let's read and check for understanding. The title of our text is Here Today, Gone Tomorrow. Let's underline the text. Let's look at the picture. Before I even read, I can pretty much predict that this is about hairstyles long ago and how they're not the same. Do we wear our hair like that now? Of course not. Paragraph 1. Follow along and track with me as I read the text. Just as clothing fashions change, so do hair fashions. People in the past sometimes used their hair to make unusual statements, much like today. I think that's very important to underline. Before the invention of scissors, people just let their hair grow long and tied it back. But after a while, people began to style their hair. Sometimes hairstyles were very complex. The largest and most elaborate hairstyles appeared in the late 1700s. Women wore their hair piled high on top of their heads. As the style became even more extreme, they wove hair onto large wire frames. Some of these hair pieces towered 3 feet above a woman's head. The style was also called for fancy ornaments. Tucked into hair pieces were flowers, birds, and waterfalls, even complete battle scenes. In the late 1920s, women started a fashion of cutting hair short called hair bobbing. Women bobbed their hair to show the newly independent spirit of the time. The fashion of short hair was then replaced by a return to long hair. In the 1960s, many women wore their hair long and very straight. Because everyone is not born with straight hair, many teenagers would iron their hair to make it straight. They would lay their curly hair on an ironing board and press the curls straight. Soon, young men, like young women, also let their hair grow long, partly as a sign of rebellion. This rebellion was a statement against the social rules of the time, as many fashions are. Now, let's look at our close reader habit. What details are important enough to include in a summary? Well, as we read, and I've already done this, but remember we always circle dates. And we're learning about the evolution or the change of hairstyles over many years. So, what details should I include in my summary? Take a moment and think about it. Pause the video and come back. Very good. So, the first detail that I would include would be the largest and most elaborate hairstyles appeared in the late 1700s. Then, several centuries later, in the 1920s, women started a fashion of cutting hair short called hair bobbing. 40 years later, in the 1960s, many women wore their hair long and very straight. So we've identified that our main idea, what is this text mostly about? Well, our topic would be hair. Our main idea would be, just as clothing has changed, so do hair fashions. People in the past sometimes used their hair to make up unusual statements, much like today. So the second sentence in paragraph 1 is our main idea. This is our first detail that supports the main idea. This is our second detail in paragraph 4, sentence 1, that supports our main idea. And in paragraph 5, sentence 1, that's our third detail that supports our main idea. All of these details are talking about the unusual statements that people have made in the past, much like today. Remember, when I'm finding the main idea of a passage, I first need to understand what the topic is. That's that broad subject. Then I need to be able to summarize what I've read in my own words, and I'm going to model that for you. Check the first and last sentences. Oftentimes your main idea will be there. However, that's not always true. Remember, sometimes we have to infer. And look for the repetition of ideas, things that are said over and over. When I summarize, remember my 5 W's: who was involved, what happened, when did it happen, where did it happen, and why did it happen. If I'm able to answer those things, I have summarized a nonfiction text. Let's practice together. Watch me. When I summarize, I give a brief statement of main points of something. I only provide the main idea in details. Ask yourself who, what, when, where, why when summarizing. Here's a text dependent question. Why have people changed their hairstyles throughout history? In paragraph 1, the author stated, people in the past sometimes used their hair to make unusual statements, much like today. Remember, that was our main idea. This explains why people have changed their hairstyles throughout history to make unusual statements. I want you to pause the video and reread the text on your own, answering questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Pause your video. All right. So, question 1, you should have these answers written down. Why did women bob their hair in the 1920s? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is go to paragraph 4, where it talks about hairstyles in the 1920s. And in sentence 2, it states, women bob their hair to show the newly independent spirit of the time. If you remember history, Women didn't have rights during that time. So when they did gain their rights, they wanted to show their freedom and independence. So they were able to express themselves by cutting their hair in what the style called a bob. So paragraph 4, sentence 2 is your answer. Question 2, why did some men grow their hair long in the 1960s? I'm going to go to paragraph 5 where they discuss hairstyles in the 1960s. And I'm going to go to sentence 1, 2, 3. And in sentence 3, and sentence 4, I'm sorry. Soon, young men, like young women, also let their hair grow long, partly as a sign of rebellion. So this is the reason why some men grew their hair long, as a sign of rebellion. Question 3, what does the word rebellion mean as it's used in the text? Well, when you rebel, you go against something. So the meaning of rebellion is to go against something. The clue in paragraph 5, what clue in paragraph 5 helps you figure out the meaning? When you go to paragraph 5, this sentence states, this rebellion was a statement against the social rules of the time. I apologize. Of the social rules of the time. Now, question 5, what is the text mainly about? Let's go back to paragraph 1, and we've identified that this was our main idea. Paragraph 1, sentence 2. People in the past sometimes used their hair to make unusual statements, much like today. Now I want you to summarize the text. Remember to answer the who, what, when, where, and why. Here's my example. Remember, put it in your own words. This article is about why and how hair fashions changed. For example, in the late 1700s, women wore their hair piled in high, elaborate hairstyles. Later, in the 1920s, women cut their hair short in a bob to show they were independent. In the 1960s, young men and women let their hair grow long as a sign of rebellion. And remember, we said when you rebel, that means to go against someone or something. Now, based off of the text, jot down what was the main idea, write your summary, and then draw a picture of the main idea. So if we know that the main idea was about the evolution or change of hairstyles, I will probably draw a style from long ago and a style today, just to show the change or evolution. Go ahead and pause your video and complete these. Here's our recap for the day. Main idea. If our main idea is roller coasters move in different ways, our topic would be roller coasters. That's broad. Our main idea is roller coasters move in different ways. And then our supporting details are look upside down, twist and turn, rise high and drop. They all support the main idea. Summarize. When I summarize, I tell in my own words the most important things I have read, what the text is mostly about, what is the author trying to tell us, what you learned, and the main idea and what the main idea and details are. Boys and girls, please do these tasks until we meet again. Complete your assigned weekly iReady lessons in reading and in math. Spend about 30 to 45 minutes per day logging in and completing your lessons. Read an AR book or article daily. Please visit Ms. Perkins' YouTube channel on our West Haven YouTube page. And she's going to explain to you how to read AR books online and take tests, just in case you don't have any AR books at home. And you always have access to articles that you can take tests on through Accelerated Reader. I suggest that you all create a journal and write about your day. Spend about 10 to 15 minutes just writing and reflecting on what you did today and what you may want to do tomorrow. Continue to set goals for yourself, you all. This concludes our lesson. Please be safe, and I'll see you next time.